Welcome back to the Commander's Declassified podcast. I'm your host tonight, Brian. I'm with Eric. How are you, man?
Not too bad. I was just admiring my blue steel post there. I was just posing like for something like, what am I, Zoolander? Come on, man. Too old
Yeah,
for that
no.
stuff. I had the random. I got to do the duck face. I'm doing great though. If you're listening, thank you. Be thankful that you are instead of watching. But I'm good. Other than that, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. If you haven't noticed already, Ellie is not with us. He is traveling for work. They are working him pretty hard, so he won't be here tonight, but he will be listening. He will be back in just a few weeks. Um, Eric, we have a lot that's going on here. We are in the second week now of training camp. Today was the sixth practice for the Commanders, first padded practice. But before we dive in, because there's a lot, because we had a whole week of training camp go by. Um, what do you think about the fan turnout for the first week of practice? A couple of those, I think the first three practices, 2,500, 3,000 people, and then the Saturday practice came 10,000 people. What do you think about that turnout?
Yeah, that's that's the Dan Snyder effect in full force right there. I mean, it's the catalyst for just good things to happen, good vibes to be around the organization, right? Like we just were waiting for him to leave so that we could have fun, right? It's like your parents are hanging around a little too long and your friends are in the basement just getting antsy. We just want to party. The other ones are waiting outside. He finally leaves. The cloud over the organization is gone, and people are coming back in droves. It's up to the organization now to maintain that and not do anything stupid to mess it up. But so far, so good. Because those turnouts have been crazy, and I'm antisocial, so I don't go anywhere near Ashburn this time of year. Now that there's 10,000 people there, I'm definitely not going. But good for the team. I'm sure that there was a good vibe at practice. The players seemed to enjoy it. The fans had a great time. Chase Young was out there shaking everybody's hand. Terry was out there getting it, hooping it up with the people. That's awesome. That's what you like to see at training camp, and I'm just glad it's back.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Right, you would wait. You'd be looking out the window. Oh, okay, their car's almost out of the driveway. We can let loose now. But yeah, it was great to see that many fans come out because right, you listen to local media, radio hosts, beat reporters, and they all said, "Oh, the fans are gone. They're not coming back. There's only 10 of you left. It's just the diehards." And to see that many people, especially Saturday. Saturday was an eye opener. Um, that was something that I wasn't quite expecting. You knew that there were going to be other people showing up, but to see Saturday 10,000 people, I mean, lines out the door. That was wild, and that felt really good because for so long we had heard, well, there's no fans left, no one's coming back. Well, no, they came back. People are coming back, and Eric, you're right. It's up to the team now to keep them right because that will only last for so long. You're going to have to keep them in place with some wins. And also with us tonight is Mike from Eddie and Mike. You heard him on the training camp extravaganza that we did last week. Mike, what's up, man?
What's poppin', y'all? How y'all doing this evening, man?
Good, good,
You're
good. We got a
bringing
lot.
that hat game once again. I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Is that one of the new ones?
I think this was last year's early sideline hat.
Okay.
Maybe. I forgot. I don't know. This is like the first Commanders hat I brought, so I was kind of like, well, not boycotting. I just wanted to wait until
you
the
were
gear.
you were ashamed of the team. Don't be honest. I don't. And
Nah.
nobody blames you. Don't worry. You didn't want to rep. It's fine.
And for those listening, Mike has got on a fresh Commander's hat with the W on the front with a little wavy burgundy and gold design on it. Sideline hat, really, really nice. Uh, Mike, we were just talking about before we dive into the football and the quarterback and what's going on. What did you think about the first week of practice? We had the first week of practice. The fan turnout. There were so many fans that came out for the first 3 days. 2,500, 3,000. Then that Saturday practice about 10K. What'd you think about that?
I'm not surprised but I know a lot of media members, fans, they kept saying that the fan base was a sleeping giant. The word awaken was used a lot this weekend. So I'm excited. I'm glad that everybody seems to be coming back slowly. But winning is going to, bring everybody back. But if they go out and, don't capture this momentum or capitalize on this momentum, it's all wasted.
Yeah. You're exactly right. This is a great opportunity for the team to kind of recapture the fan base. You got everybody lining up to come see the team. Well, now it's time to do something, right? And you do that by winning. So let's talk about some of the football that we saw last week before we get into what we saw today and some other things. So the practices all last week and up until Saturday were all helmets, right? There are no shoulder pads, no pads or anything like that. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Non-quarterback on the offense, because we'll talk about the quarterback at the end. We're going to spend a lot of time on that. What stood out to you about the offense for those first couple of practices?
The involvement of running backs. I've been hearing a lot about Gibson, Brian Robinson. I was listening to, I think, JP Finley and B Mitch earlier, and one of them even dropped the Jonathan Williams line. And I'm like, listen, don't talk about Jonathan Williams in training camp, because that's my guy, man. I think this would be his third season with us. And to me, it just seems like whenever he has the ball, something good happens.
Yeah.
Just hadn't had many chances, which is understandable. But if Bieniemy plans on using those staple of running backs, talking about Gibson, Robinson, and a surprise in Williams, I would love to see that into the season.
Yeah, I agree as well too. We like Jonathan Williams here as well on the Declassified podcast. We've had him on the show. No, the running backs, I think they're going to be a huge part. Obviously, running the football, but I think the passing game. All right, I think Bieniemy's whole thing with this pass game is going to be get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, and one of the ways you do that, it's right. Some of these running back swing passes. So I definitely like that. Eric, other side of the football, defense. What stood out to you kind of in those first handful of practices? Anybody or any unit in particular that you thought looked to separate themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm salivating over what everybody's saying about how the defensive line looks thus far. It's at full strength finally with Chase back healthy. The other three guys are all either paid or getting ready to get paid. Everybody's hungry to play well. I think that unit is just going to be really good this year. And even the backups, Phil Mathis back there. What's the other guy's name? The tackle that
Jonathan Ridgeway.
Yeah, Ridgeway. Yeah, the power bomb the dude last year. We got to keep that in check. But it's very exciting to see to hear how well that unit is performing and how much trouble they're giving the offense, even if it's not in pads, because you can still judge. I mean, explosiveness and that sort of thing is, that first step. It doesn't matter if you got pads on or not. If you're getting by a guy after one step, that's a great sign. And I think, that they get off of the defensive line is very apparent. And I can't wait to watch that unit this year because I think the two defensive ends are going to have just monster years. And Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne are solid in the middle as always. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm encouraged by what we've been hearing thus far about the D line for sure.
Yeah, I think that's that's the biggest, right? They're the headliner is that defensive line, and they absolutely have been giving the offense fits all training camp so far, and that's good and that's bad as well. But yeah, you're right. They're going to be the headliner all year. As if they perform, I think the rest of that group performs. Anybody else on the defense side stick out to you outside of the big time names?
I like hearing that Forbes is getting the work in against Terry McLaurin. That's fantastic. I don't know that he's winning a lot of his battles, but you're not going to find much better competition. I mean, if you're going against that guy in practice every day, you're gonna see a lot. And I think that from what I'm hearing, he's just a perfect fit, which I think we were saying before we even drafted him, the fit that he is. I had him as my favorite corner for this defense going into the draft. We all know that. Not that I was not completely shocked like you guys were where we took him, but I really thought he was going to be the best corner for this defense coming out of that draft. And I think so far that's proving correct. I think he's doing that match zone. What is it? Zone matching that they do is like, it's just a great fit. And the fact that, everybody else is in lockstep now that they're in their third year of that system, it's really exciting, but I can't wait to watch Emmanuel Forbes play. He's going to take his lumps as a rookie for sure. I don't know that he's going to have a Sauce Gardner or a Tariq Woolen type year. I would welcome it if he did, but I think he's going to be just fine.
And everybody's got to remember, Eric is our cornerback expert. He picked Tariq Woolen last year before the draft and said that he would be a shutdown guy, a starter, and Tariq Woolen blew up last year. So pay attention when Eric says something about a cornerback. Mike, still on the offensive side, we hear constantly about the tight ends, and especially our tight end group. They apparently are like the tallest in the NFL. Like everybody is 6'6" or taller in our tight end room. What are your thoughts about what you've seen from that tight end group? Kind of what Bieniemy's doing with them? What do you think they could do potentially here this season?
It's so funny. It's like you read my mind because when
I
you
had
asked
that.
the first question, I was like, do I say running backs or tight ends? Because they were kind of neck and neck.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Thanks for the assist. The tight ends, though, I've been hearing good things about them. Haven't really seen anything. Haven't been to training camp yet. But for me, health and involvement, just like with the running backs, and that word involvement again, health is supremely important for the tight ends, though, as more important than involvement. Because I think if Logan Thomas is as healthy as people are saying he is, that's a tight end you're going to want to target in your fantasy drafts, man. That man, I'm telling you, y'all seen it. The man is a nightmare, a matchup nightmare. Like I have seen that Raiders touchdown that he scored in Vegas. I've seen that touchdown about 30 times since it happened. It was an amazing catch, not throw. I'm not going to say who threw it, but it was an amazing catch. He had to go real high to get it. And I just think that the enemy using Thomas, Turner as a tight end duo, I'm excited about them too. Running backs and tight ends, very slept on in Washington.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the usage of these guys is going to be what we should all pay attention to, right? I don't think Logan Thomas is going to get 80 catches or anything crazy like that, right? Like a Travis Kelce or anything. But I think the way that Bieniemy will use them, I think they'll use them over the middle and in the red zone a ton, right? You want a bigger target over the middle to help Sam kind of see it, and then you want that big body in the red zone to block out some of those defenders. So I think you're going to see a lot of those guys get targeted there. So I'm excited. I can't wait because we got a whole big fat nothing from the tight end group last year. And I think there's more there. While collectively there's not one special guy, I think together, all three of them, four of them, how many ever we keep, active, I think they can all contribute really well. Eric, the offensive line, right? Now, when there's no pads on, it's hard to tell what those guys are. We saw them today maybe look a little bit better with pads on, but so far, what has your thoughts been about this offensive line that we've got here?
Well, that was the group that I was most concerned about coming in. It's still the group that I am concerned about. Obviously they're going against this defensive line, which is tough. I think it's great that they do get to go against this defensive line, but it is concerning, the lack of experience and or just the injury history of some of these guys. Leno is a he's not an elite left tackle, but he's a quality starting offensive lineman. The two guards are just question marks at this point. We don't even know who the left guard is going to be. Cosme's moving in where he was okay at guard last year. I think he is going to be probably better at guard than he was at tackle personally, but we don't know yet. And he's not been able to stay healthy for a full season. So that's a huge concern. The right tackle, Wiley, coming over from Kansas City, he benefited from having a quarterback who got the ball out very quickly. He got beat a lot last year, so I am concerned about him. I think he's probably a better guard than tackle personally. But we got two of those guys, and one of them's got to play tackle, right? And then, of course, the center that is coming off an Alex Smith injury. It's just terrifying to look at that. And I know that you can compensate for a poor offensive line with a good quarterback, but when you've got a shoddy offensive line on paper, at least, and you've got a young quarterback, it's a scary situation, right? Like Patrick Mahomes can survive, Joe Burrow can survive behind a line that it's patchwork. Aaron Rodgers can do that. They've seen everything. These guys are great quarterbacks. Sam Howell is a first-year starter, and he doesn't have that, that we know of, that cool attitude, quick delivery, quick decision making that somebody like a Joe Burrow had when his offensive line was garbage his first year starting. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm very concerned about the offensive line for sure.
Yeah, you and all of us as well too. And I think you nailed it, right? Like, suspect offensive line, young quarterback learning the system, right? That usually doesn't end up well. That usually probably ends in disaster. We hope it doesn't here, but it's not a good sign. Stay with the offensive line. Let me ask you this, because I've seen reports Nick Gates high snaps multiple times, multiple practices, high snaps. And I get it, right? You've got Daron Payne in front of you. You got Jonathan Allen. I'd probably snap the ball high too, because I'm probably worried about one of those guys running me over. But if you're snapping the ball high, like, that's your first job as a center. Get the snap down correct. What do you think of that? Is that something people should be worried about, or just a?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the first job of the center is to get the ball to the quarterback. And if you can't do that effectively, I mean, they're going to run a lot of shotgun because, Sam Howell is going to rely on RPO, and you can't RPO out from under center very easily. So shotgun is a must have in this offense. And if you're missing on your snaps, if you're high, because Sam's not the tallest quarterback anyway, you don't have a lot of leeway there. So if you're going over that guy's head, it's going to cause problems during the season. So it's something worth monitoring. And it could just be something that, Sam needs to get used to, just catching them high, or Gates needs to learn how to get the ball down. But at this point, who knows? It's a scary situation though, because it is most likely going to cause problems, if not in the preseason, or definitely in the preseason, but possibly into the regular season as well if they don't get it under control. And the snap is the hardest thing to, it's the easiest thing to do, but it's the easiest thing to screw up a play if it's bad. So. Yes, that is concerning, and I'm not sold on Gates as a center anyway, so that just makes me even sadder. Less sold.
I agree with you there. I want to see some Stromberg soon, quick, fast, in a hurry. We interviewed the Shrine Bowl director, Eric Galco, and he raved about Stromberg. So I want to see some more Ricky Stromberg at center, maybe with the first group, see how he looks. But Mike, staying with the offensive line, Sadiq Charles, Chris Paul, this left guard spot. They were kind of rotating, sharing some snaps here this week. Then today, we get undrafted free agent Mason Brooks, who put the pads on and said, "Okay, now you're going to know about my name today," and was throwing Fidarian Mathis around and some of the other defensive tackles around with the pads on. The pads are always a great equalizer, but what do you think about this left guard spot here? Do you think it's Sadiq Charles or Chris Paul, or now a newcomer, Mason Brooks?
How about option D? None of the above.
Ooh, okay. What you got? Tell me.
He's trying to bring back Eric Flowers.
Whoa, man! No.
Hey, if he would play, I mean, he wasn't bad. I would take him. Yeah. Against what we got, I'd take him.
I have a theory on that. Well, not a theory, but that's for another time. But I don't think. But you're right person, just wrong. I mean, right type, wrong person. I don't know who the free agent is, but I do feel like they're going to bring in a free agent. The way they're talking about that left side of the line, especially the guard spot, I don't think they're going to feel comfortable entering the season with just those three players in the rotation at the guard spot, along with Cosme on the other side, who I do have trust in. I trust Cosme. I guess I trust Wiley because, coming from Kansas City, he gets beat a lot, but I mean, no one said he's elite. So you do what you can. But yeah, that left guard spot, we know Leno's locked down that left tackle, but that left guard spot is going to be tough to find someone to actually do something in a short amount of time. But I just feel like Sadiq, Paul, and this Mac Brown, not Mac Brown, I'm sorry.
Mason Brooks.
Mason Brooks. Keep him on the roster.
Yeah.
Do not cut him, because if you cut him, you're going to basically give him to another team like you stole Ridgeway away from the Cowboys last season. So learn that lesson that you taught yourself and don't cut that dude. Keep Brooks on the team. Because if he crashing for Darian Mathis like that, back to back,
yeah, yep,
that's a monster.
Yeah, no, that's a great point about keeping Mason Brooks on the roster. Like, we're deficient on the offensive line. Don't give away guys who could potentially make a difference for you. Keep him around, and I think you're spot on about us having to bring somebody in. I know I saw Dalton Risner, who started offensive guard, started for the past 4 years for the Broncos as a free agent. He just visited the Vikings today. I think somebody like him is a guy that we could go and target. But you're right. It was reported today. I think like one of the first 11-on-11 periods, Jonathan Allen just basically beat Sadiq Charles, and Bieniemy just lit up Charles after that for getting beat so quickly right off the snap. And I'm like, well, if that's happening already, that's not a good sign. And then they put in Paul right away after that. And so if they're kind of swapping those guys around that much, I think you're right. I think it speaks to that they're not necessarily happy, and that if they're giving Mason Brooks the opportunity to get in there now, I think it tells you that, hey, we don't like option 1 or 2. Let's try option 3, and that's it might work out. Mason may be the answer, but if you're on your third option, maybe that's not that great of a thing to do. So,
you guys, I think, are talking about a different head coach unless Ron Rivera got fired, because he ain't upgrading the offensive line for anything.
That's true.
Ron Rivera he does not care about the offensive line. He ain't worried about it. He's going to roll with what he's got and make it work.
That's what it feels like, man. Because
what he's going to do.
I'm not going to lie. The Knicks Gate signing, I understood it, but with the
if you're signing a backup, sure, I understand it. But if you're signing that guy to start,
exactly.
He just had the injury 2 years ago. He's coming from a team that was struggling on the offensive line.
Yes.
Just saying, man. I know we drafted Daniels in the first. I mean, not Daniels. Stromberg in the third round, but it's not enough.
Agreed. I was, you're right. I wanted a left tackle in that first round, and I think we could have taken the left tackle. You could have slid Leno over to right tackle, and then went out and
there's no left tackles. They were all gone though by the time we picked the first round. You'd have to move up.
Harrison, he was going to be that was my guy.
Oh yeah, he was your guy.
Yeah,
I mean that was just as big a reach as Forbes was actually.
Yeah. So where did he end up going?
What's that?
Where did he end up going?
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And he's going to start there because they let their tackle go in free agency, so they drafted him in the first round, like 20 something. I think both of you guys have nailed it. The offensive line, very much a work in progress, something to watch. And Mike, I think you're right. There's probably going to be some guys that we're going to, we're probably going to have to go out and get in free agency or see who gets cut here.
There's no more former Panthers out there play guard. There's nobody coming in to help. We're rolling with what we got.
Fast forwarding for a second to the 2024 draft, I will bet a strong piece of change that they're drafting a left tackle in the first round, unless they're drafting a quarterback. Like if things go well next season, They're drafting a left tackle in the first round.
Not a
unless
Ron
they're
Rivera's here.
drafting a quarterback.
Drafting a defensive tackle.
No.
Ron Rivera will be in the retirement home in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, Ron's here. We ain't taking a tackle in the first round. I promise you that.
I think after this season, with the way the defense performs, expectedly, it will be criminal to draft another defensive player in the first round.
Okay.
After you drafted
Ron Rivera,
after you drafted a cornerback or two cornerbacks in the first 2 rounds, the linebacker in 2020, like, please, offensive line, address it.
I mean, like I said, I think we're gonna have a new head coach. So maybe
just like the cornerbacks, you drafted 2 back-to-back. Draft 2 offensive linemen. I know I sound like a old head. With they always say bring the Hogs back and you gotta do this and do that. But no, seriously, this offensive line has been in shambles.
Yep.
We lost 2 key pieces in Williams and Sheriff, and we have not barely addressed those yet. Like I love Leno. He is not Trent Williams at all. Not even close. We need to find some real hogs, real dogs to put back on that O-line. Hopefully we can pair him with Howell if he performs well or whatever. But
like the line when Ron got here compared to what it is now, I mean, you had Trent Williams, Morgan Moses, Brandon Sheriff, Eric Flowers, and Roulier. And they've been replaced with parking cones comparatively.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, Leno's fine. I don't hate Leno. He's the only offensive lineman on this team that would start anywhere else, though.
Mike, you're exactly right. You're preaching to the choir. I think when we did all of our pre-draft, our mock drafts here, I think all of us or a couple of us would pick 2 offensive linemen within the first 3 picks. I know I did. I was picking a tackle and a center in this draft, and instead we got 2 defensive backs in the first 3 picks. So we're with you. I absolutely want more offensive linemen, and I think you're right. Next year, however this shakes out, there will be offensive linemen drafted high next year. But before we get to the quarterbacks, let me ask you something. We just talked about Charles Leno. And Charles Leno, I think from everything that we've seen, has been pretty solid. And for the most part, who's he going against? He's going against Chase Young. And it made me think, Chase has got him a couple of times. But Leno's 45 years old. They're, 38, 34, 35. I'm kidding. But Leno's an average left tackle at best. And that's not a bad thing. He's a solid player. If Chase isn't just dominating him day to day, is that a bad thing, Eric? I'll let you. I'll start with you on that one.
No, I mean, you would like to see. Leno's a pro, and he has had to block very good defensive ends throughout his career, so he's not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. And defensive ends, the best defensive ends in the league, don't dominate offensive tackles the entire game. They get the highlight plays. Like if a guy gets 2 sacks, he had like an all-world game. I mean, he could have gotten basically stuffed the other 60 plays on defense, but he comes up with 2 sacks and everybody says he had a great game. So I don't think it's a question of just dominating him on every single play, because that just doesn't happen in the NFL, regardless of who you're going up against. But if he's making enough plays, and I mean, it's a good sign for both guys if they're able to get plays against each other, because, they're both professionals. They're both talented players. And Leno has, seen enough in this league to compensate for maybe the fact that he's not Trent Williams. He can look at what you're doing, how you're lined up. He can look at what the defense is doing. He knows what's coming, and that helps him. That gives him that extra step, because as a veteran offensive tackle, you just, you do that or you get cut. So he's clearly figured that out. So no, I don't worry about that at all. I think Chase is going to be fine this year. I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to get himself paid by us or somebody next year. I don't think he needs to dominate Charles Leno on every single play. If he was, then Charles Leno would need to be replaced too, because even the best guys just don't do that.
That's true. That's true. Good point, Mike. What do you think about that with Leno going up against Chase Young every play here at practice and holding his own? Should we? It's good for Leno, but should we be worried that Chase isn't progressing as we think he is?
Nah. It's really not a worry. And the only thing, it's a good question though, but the only thing I got to point to last year's stats without Chase, still top 3 defense in the league.
Yeah.
So like they're doing something right without him on the field. But I just feel like if, like you said, if he if he was dominating Eric, if he was dominating,
he could pretty much dominate me. If he wasn't dominating me, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Dominating Leno, like I said, it would be more harm than good for us. So I'm glad that it's kind of balanced out. I'm just happy that when it comes to Chase, I'm just happy that everyone's been reporting that he's moving smoothly, moving well, and that the brace is gone for him and Logan Thomas, and both have been moving well, and you just expect them to continue to build confidence in their abilities. So by the time September roll around, they feel really, really good.
Yeah. No, agreed. I think you're exactly right. Well, we've held out long enough. Quarterback time. Sam Howell. All eyes are on Sam Howell at every one of these practices. Everybody's talking about him, good, bad, or indifferent, every day, up, down, overthrow, underthrow, accurate, touchdown, interception. Eric, we had 5 practices in helmets. Today was the first one in pads. Up and down, I think, for the most part, some good days, some bad days. The Saturday, the big day, maybe a little bit more down on that day. Today, certainly a little bit better today. What do you think about Sam Howell's performance? 22 years old, learning this Eric Bieniemy offense so far.
I think he's doing what he needs to do. I think he's progressing. He's doing fine. Remember that he is going up against this defense, which is amazing, behind that offensive line, which is not amazing. Unfortunately, he's going to have to learn how to deal with that, all season long, unless they can figure things out up front. But he is a first-year starter. He is not going to be an All-Pro this year. He is going to there's just things
we don't know that.
Okay, we don't know that.
I'm joking.
We don't know that.
Yeah, let's go.
Probably not going to be an All-Pro this year. There's just things in this league that he hasn't seen yet, and he's going to have to learn with experience. He's going to take some lumps. So I'm not concerned at all. You guys sent out the couple of clips from the Hoffman show a couple days ago where they and then I went back and listened to the actual entire show, and it was not nearly as bad.
Yeah, what Eric was talking about there is the Craig
playing
Hoffman
against an elite defense. So we're gonna see him go up and down against his defense. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. When the Ravens come to town and he sees something different, that'll be the first big test. And he played against the Ravens in the preseason last year. He played. I think that was the game he played. He started and played the full game.
He played the whole game.
What I liked about him last year, and I think is going to progress this year, is that while he wasn't statistically dominant, he didn't have his best game. It didn't appear to be too much for him to handle. He was able to just make his progressions. He was able to make reads, some of them right, some of them wrong. He didn't make all the throws, but he was able to manage the game effectively for a guy starting against a good defense for the first time. So I look for that to continue. If he can look like that, especially early on in the season, if he can just come out and look like he's not afraid, the moment's not too big for him, he can grow into this role, and hopefully Bieniemy can protect him with play calling. We want a run heavy, screen heavy, tight end heavy game with shots, right? Give him the throws that he can make early on. Let him see things. Let him see different coverages, different defensive fronts. Let him figure it out. Let him learn to trust his offensive line and the calls that they make for the protections. He's got to learn all that, but help him out as much as you can with play calling. Let him grow into it. I want to see that. And so far, I haven't seen anything to say that he can't handle what they're throwing at him. He may not make the right decision all the time. He's going to make mistakes, but he doesn't look overwhelmed. He doesn't seem to be overwhelmed at this point. And I think that's a good sign. Again, I don't think he's going to be a 5,000-yard, 50 touchdown passer this year. I hope he is. That would be fantastic. But, as long as he looks competent as a starter, which so far he does, I think he'll be just fine this year.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out a good point there is, from everything we've heard, he knows the entire playbook. Like they've downloaded that into him already through OTAs, mini camp, and these first, 6 practices. He knows all of the offense. Now, can he execute it, 100% right every time? That's going to be the question. And no, he's not going to. But he's prepared. He knows all the plays, and it's one of the bigger things for a younger quarterback is they don't know, right? They don't know the whole playbook. They can't do some of the things. You have to limit some of these things. So the fact that he's able to have digested all of that and he's running it is a great sign, and that's a big first step. But Mike, same thing to you. Sam Howell. 5 practices in helmets. Today was the first one in pads. What have you seen, liked, disliked about his progression, and kind of where do you think he's at right now? Through, I mean, it's crazy, right? We're the second week, but it's only 6 practices. It's not like he's gone through 15 or something.
Yeah, I'm okay with where he is. The fact that he's still outperforming Brissett and Fromm, I guess,
Yep.
it's a good thing. Like we don't want him coming in looking like hot garbage, and we expect him not to look like someone said earlier, Mahomes. Like he's not Mahomes. He's Sam Howell, and I'm cool with that. I appreciate the videos that everyone's been posting, so I have been able to see a little of him, and I agree that his passes have been high, but like someone said, they are not the skyscrapers that Haskins was throwing in 2019. They're passes that can only be caught by our receivers.
Oh,
If you saw the Terry McLaurin catch, for example,
yep.
did it look overthrown? Maybe. But for receivers like Dawson and McLaurin, they'll go get it. And that's something that they probably practice. So it's okay if all of his or some of his passes are high. Because believe me, I'd rather have overthrown passes out of bounds than
Yes.
underthrown passes on the sideline or whatever, just because my quarterback didn't have the arm strength. I ain't taking no shots at nobody, by the way. But I'm just saying, for the 6 practices, first and pass seemed like it was all right. Like I ain't tripping. I just need to see all of this. Like none of this matters until the first preseason game.
Yeah.
And then the second preseason game, honestly, this might be the most important. That week, matter of fact, may
Yeah.
be the most important week that this team has had in the preseason, probably since I've been watching, because that's going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, he is a young, inexperienced quarterback, and no, he's not going to be the all-star coming out the gates, right? It's not Mahomes. It's not going to look perfect or be perfect. There are going to be some growing pains, but from what we've seen so far, whether he's been up or down, his good is it's better than Brissett from what we've seen. And Brissett hasn't been lighting it up either, and not even against the backups has he been lighting it up to warrant a difference in quarterback change. So from that standpoint, there either I think it's clear that how should be. And hopefully, continues to show that he deserves to be the number one guy. But certainly, there's going to be some bumps along the way. And my big thing is the team isn't really game planning, right? The offense isn't game planning our defense. They're just working on their concepts, right? They're working on their routes. They're working on their timing. And Mike, you're right. Preseason game, the first one, and obviously the week of the second one against, I think it's the Ravens, right? That we have the joint practices. That's where you'll see a little bit of game plan. They're not going to put in a full game plan for them, but they're going to do a little bit. There's going to be a couple of plays that they'll work on specifically for that week and for the practices and for the game. So that's where you'll see kind of the game plan come together after all of these things here where there might be plays that Sam Howell struggles. Bieniemy's going to take that and say, okay, I know he struggles with this. I'm not going to call it in the game, right?
Exactly.
You
Like,
know?
and I never understood why
Yeah.
people don't understand that. Like I was thinking about it earlier. All training camp is glorified spring games. It's just that you have about 10 of them or 30 or 20 of them in a row or whatever. But it's just a spring game. It's a practice. Like, don't take this stuff too seriously. Watch the preseason games. Then start talking a little bit. But even that you shouldn't take too seriously.
Yeah, you're exactly right. A lot of this stuff is trying to find out what this group can do well, what they can't do, and how do we put a game plan together around these guys. Because same thing with the offensive line. Like, look, if we can't get any push up the middle, do you think Bieniemy's just going to call run plays right up the middle every time? Like, he's going to have to figure something else out. This is the time that we're going to do that. We're going to try to put something together. Mike, what you got? You're gonna say something?
No, I'm good.
Anything else, Eric? Quarterback, kind of related around Sam, or anything else? Because we're going to see this question every practice. There are a lot of other either reporters or other places that are doing like Howell trackers today. How was his day today? Was he 10 of 12 today? That kind of thing. Where anything else that you want to mention about Howell?
Well, I'm really concerned with the From tracker. I want to know how Jake's doing. No, I don't care. I don't care how Jake's doing. No, I'm anxious for the preseason games. I want to see, what they look like. I'm actually curious to see how much Howell plays in the preseason. I think he's going to get more time like a normal starting quarterback would, but that's, because they're he's a first year starter. He's going in and they know what they have in Brissett. I don't think they're going to put Howell out there for too long and expose him to injury, but I think he's going to play more than a quarter in the preseason opener when most guys just play like a series. It'll be interesting to see how much he plays, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm not pressing the panic button on Sam Howell, and I'm not pressing the joy button on him either. I just want to see what this guy, I just want to see what he can do. I'm looking forward to watching him this season.
Yeah, agreed. I think you'll see a lot of him in that. At least a quarter, if not a quarter and a half in that first game, and then however long they keep him in on that second game as well. Mike, something off the field. We thought, right, Snyder sold the team and we were done with off the field stuff, but this is a minor thing, but it's still a thing that's out there. Jamin Davis, he's a big, explosive, fast player, but he's been showing that speed off the field, out on the roadways. He got himself into a little bit of trouble here. 114 miles an hour in a 55. What's
45.
45.
45.
And that's
Mike. What's going on with Jamin?
So I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. I love how the media is trying to just brush this under the rug because he's a football player. But he just got pulled over for doing 85 and a 65. They lowered it to 84 to hook him up. They gave him a shot. Man, we're gonna drop this so it can be 19, so you won't get in too much trouble.
Yeah.
To do that, only to come back less than a year later, and go. What are we talking? 69 miles over the speed limit. Really?
In the middle of the day.
69
in
miles.
the middle of the day too.
Oh, it was the middle of the day.
Yeah,
wow.
It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
In a residential area, right? It's not like it was like a backwoods. There's nothing around, in a residential type area.
And this is during school, because I think it happened in March. So this is during school when kids can be getting off the bus around that time. I'm not sure about Virginia's school laws, school hours, but kids can be getting off the bus at that time. Oh yeah, and it's in Virginia.
Yeah.
Out of the three jurisdictions, guess who's going to hit you the hardest?
Yeah. And for anybody, Yeah, for anybody listening at home who either hasn't been to Virginia or hasn't lived in Virginia or driven through, Virginia's traffic laws are serious. They come, a lot of the moving violations come with jail time, and there's jail time here associated with Jamin's 114 miles an hour. Not to cut you off, Mike. Go ahead.
No, and that's where the major concern comes from. The judge, and that's another thing. The judge offered a plea deal pretty much. Serve 8 days in jail, and it's over with. But for some reason, he rejected it. So I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I'm very concerned because this is a penalty that can be charged up to 1 year, according to JP Finley on the radio this morning. Yeah. It can be charged up to 1 year. So the fact that he just got pulled over, the fact that he's an NFL football player, the fact that it was in a residential zone and it was almost 70 miles over the speed limit, I am terrified for this young man.
And to your point, I think for me the biggest kind of the red flag is, look, I've gotten a speeding ticket before, not going that fast, but Jamin Davis was in the car that was behind DeShazer Everett a year prior when DeShazer Everett unfortunately got into an accident with his fiance, and she lost her life. Having not learned from that experience, that to me is probably the biggest issue or red flag there. Look, I mean, accidents are going to happen. You're going to have get a speeding ticket, but to not learn from that incident, I think also in Virginia, right? Also,
yeah. And I'm gonna be real with you. I love driving. Like, I have a need for speed. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I have a need for speed. But there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing people 7 o'clock in the morning, rush hour. There's cars everywhere. Why are you doing 90, bro? It's too early for all that.
So they're on their way home, man.
Right? Like, what is going on? But yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. I thought when you first said something about off the field, I thought you was going to bring up the big 100 controversy with the.
Oh, we talked about that.
Yeah, I don't want any parts of that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's not what you asked.
Yeah. So hopefully, Jamin.
My guess on Jamin Davis. I was going to say my guess on Jamin Davis is probably losing his license for a year. He's probably going to have to pay a hefty fine, and he's probably going to have to serve, I'd say, about 10 days in jail. That's going to be my guess based on my reckless driving ticket for doing over 100 miles an hour. I didn't have to do any jail time, at least, but I had a nice hefty fine, and I did lose my license for a while when I was a little bit younger than Jamin. So I'm very familiar, and I wasn't doing it in the middle of the day either. But it is, that was my first reckless driving ticket. This is not his first offense. So it's scary. Yeah. He grew up as a NASCAR fan. He needs to leave that. That dude does not, at this point in his life, need to be behind the wheel anymore. And I'm not a big fan of taking people's rights away. But in this case, dude, he just can't, like you said it yourself. He was there with the DeShazer Everett thing. This is not his first, way too fast moment. That guy doesn't need to have a driver's license. He's putting other people at risk in addition to himself and his career. That's all secondary. I mean, he could hit it's a terrible thing. Jamin, you don't need to be behind the wheel of a car, and the team needs to work that in. If he gets his contract extension, they need to work in an Uber clause.
Yeah. I like all of the
drive, because you just don't need to be behind the vehicle.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I think all of that's right, and we'll see how this works out. I think his sentencing is Thursday, so we'll see how that works out for him there. Mike, to kind of wrap up so far, 6 practices in the books. It's kind of exciting now. We got pads on. We're starting to see more actual team offense. Like, hey, running game is now involved here, because before in those it was just pass, right? Like the defense knew everything that was coming. Now it's all now, hey, it can be run, it could be pass, it could be screen. The defense doesn't know. We're getting a little bit better look from everybody in there. What are you excited to look forward to with these practices the rest of this week and next week?
I want to see a day, even though I said training camp doesn't matter, mentally, psychologically, I think it matters. So I want to see a day where the reporters and fans are like, oh my goodness, the offense just destroyed the defense today. They couldn't stop them. Like, the defense got maybe one or two plays, but for the most part, the offense just destroyed them. Like, I want to see at least one of those days where everybody is in agreement that the offense is good. Because if we can see that in training camp, it should translate to preseason, which should translate to the regular season. Because this team, more than any other team, needs a good preseason. I don't know when was the last time I could confidently say Washington had a good preseason. Maybe 2005.
That's true. No, you're exactly right. I think what we need to see just kind of move is just incremental progress. And, if it's the offense, continue to get better, right? If you had one or two plays today, I need to see 3 or 4 tomorrow. And I need to see 5 or 6 the day after.
Exactly.
Continue to build on good days because you want to stack those good days. You don't want to have a good day, bad day, good day, bad day, because by the end of it, you don't necessarily get anywhere with that. So I agree with you. I want to see kind of the offense stack some good days, and I want to see some more of the creativity because we haven't seen or heard a lot of it. We saw some of it today with some of the formations that they were doing down by the goal line. Today with the offense. So
yesterday, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
yesterday I was listening to John Kime, and he said the practice was closed to the fans, but the media could see it, and obviously they couldn't record.
right.
But he did mention, and he didn't want to say the personnel, but he mentioned like the formation motions are crazy.
Oh, good.
And that got me excited because, like you said, we haven't heard anything from anyone about creativity or whatever. But he said the motion game is crazy. And I did see a play. I think I saw how practice the Mahomes under the hand throw to the running back. I saw that earlier. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
But
No,
it's just nice to it's nice to get that shot of adrenaline on the offense. Because I hate to bring him up because at this point it does feel like we're beating a dead horse. But Scott Turner, man, like he had us in the bottom third every year here.
Yep.
This offense, they don't have to get to the top 10.
Exactly.
They really don't. Like, I know I keep stressing this on my shows, on social media. The offense just has to score 21 points, 22, 23 points a game consistently. Last year, we were scoring 17, 13 points a game consistently. Can we get an extra touchdown a game? Is Eric Bieniemy a touchdown a game better than Scott Turner? That's what I want to know.
Agreed, and I think you're right. I think a lot of people, if our offense could be in that 12 to 18 range, which is middle of the road, that would be huge. Because with the defense and a middle of the road offense, because we haven't had one, we've had a bottom tier offense. That would go a long way. Eric, I asked Mike, to kind of wrap everything up. What do you want to see here moving forward, right? We just had our first padded practice. Everything else will be padded. What are you looking for? Is it offensively? Is it coaching? Is it defense? Is it more fans? What are you looking forward to seeing here in these next few practices this week, next week, and as we move on?
Yeah, first and foremost, as always with camp, it's staying healthy. I just don't want to see any injuries. Any guys getting hurt that need to be relied on this season. So that's number one. And I want the defense to continue balling out. And I'm looking forward to seeing some progression from the offense. I'm really looking forward to the dual week of practice with the Ravens. It's kind of a early measuring stick. Yeah, it should be fun to get that. And I'm not looking forward to keeping myself from overreacting to every story that comes out, as I tend to do. So trying to keep it an even keel moving into the preseason. But I haven't seen any major red flags yet, other than, I'm not just confirmation of how I feel about the offensive line, but I haven't seen any major, like, we're really going to stink here this year, and I didn't expect that. There's nothing there yet. So as long as this team can stay healthy and continue to progress, I'll be a happy guy heading into the season.
Yeah, agreed. I just want to see, as I was telling Mike, I just want to see incremental growth, incremental progress from the offense. Just continue to put good plays on top of good plays until we can get good days on top of good days, and just go from there. With the run game now, I saw one little tweet about Chris Rodriguez. He had a nice little 10-yard run right against the first team defense, which I hadn't heard a whole lot of good from him. So the fact that his physicality and his running ability kind of showed today when the pads came on was great to hear. And I want to hear more of that. I want to hear some more successes from the offense as we go along, and less off the field type of stuff. So I'm excited for everything else that's going on. Mike, where can outside of here with us filling in for LE, where else can everyone hear you?
Definitely on the Eddie and Mike podcast. We're having our 100th episode next episode.
Ooh, nice.
Don't know if we're going to plan anything special yet or not, but I'll definitely keep everyone posted. You can catch that on all the podcast platforms. And other than that, you can just follow me on Twitter. My name right there, at Mike from SW Southwest. Um, Shout out to everyone from Southwest if you're listening. And yeah, that's it, man. I'm excited for the season, just like everyone else is, and I'm just ready to cook. It's been so long. It's been so long.
Exactly.
I was born in '89. I got here just as things started to taper away. I was only 3 when they won the Super Bowl in the '91 season, but the year '92 it was only 3. I'm ready to like throw my hat in the ring. Like, it's just been so long. I want to be that top 5 team, that team that people really don't want to play. I want to be that, and I feel like this year could be the stepping stone for that.
I love it because everything's possible now. We got that black cloud out of here. He's gone. He's over across the ocean, never to bother us again. So anything's possible now. We can absolutely dream and hope and have that type of stuff happen. So Eddie and Mike, go check them out. 100th episode next week. Check us out, Commanders Declassified Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. If whatever you're listening to, you don't see that we've updated, make sure you resubscribe because there may be 2 of us out there, 2 Commanders Declassified podcasts. So check the one, subscribe to the one that has the most recent updates, and check out the YouTube channel. Check out the website as well, commanders247.com. And we'll see you next week.